Hello and what is up YouTube? My name is G3 Iron and today we are talking about burnout in POE or really in any game or in any hobby that you might enjoy. Thanks so much to everyone who voted and participated in the YouTube poll as well as the Patreon poll this week to give us a topic to discuss. I'm very excited to chat about some of the causes of burnout as well as some of the tips and solutions for dealing with burnout if that's something that you are presently experiencing, or maybe you know someone who has or is experiencing burnout. Hopefully this will be a discussion that's beneficial for all of us right here in the community. Those of you who are veterans of the channel, you of course know the procedure around here, but if you're new, welcome to the channel. You can like, subscribe, and ding the bell for more videos just like this one. There are some timestamps that are placed above my entirely bald forehead, and those are of course hot linked for you down below in the video description. If at any point in time you would like to skip ahead to particular parts of the discussion, revisit parts of the discussion, or quote parts of the discussion. Of course, all of these different things that we will talk about today come with a couple of different resources and some websites that I used for help in this discussion, and those are also included in the video description down below for your further reading and enjoyment and dissection. So without any further ado, let's jump into discussing what is burnout. So first off, burnout is classically defined in the workforce, according to the World Health Organization, with the following symptoms. This is what classifies and really identifies whether or not someone is experiencing burnout. But typically in the workforce, we're going to adjust this definition in just a moment. But if you're at work and you're experiencing burnout, typically first you'll have feelings of energy depletion or physical exhaustion. You will have increased mental distance from one's job or feeling of negativism or cynicism related towards one's job. And then thirdly, you will have reduced professional efficiency. So that is what burnout is in the classic workspace professional world. But how does it relate to POE and to gaming? Well, we can go back through and actually make some additions, some changes, some edits, as it were, to the World Health's classification of burnout. So instead of saying that you're going to experience feelings of energy depletion or exhaustion, maybe if you're burnt out on a game or particularly on POE, you will have feelings that repetitive gameplay has simply become boring. You might actually fall asleep while you're playing. This used to happen to me back in the day when me and Mrs. Draconis had our first kid, and I would come home from graduate school and from work, and I would sit in a rocking chair with my oldest child, at that point my only child, and I would just hold her in my arms while I was playing Diablo 3. And I would actually fall asleep. The baby would be asleep in my lap, and I would fall asleep. Like Diablo 3 was actually putting me to sleep. I was experiencing workplace burnout. I was experiencing every kind of burnout that there was, but especially I was experiencing Diablo 3 burnout. It simply wasn't doing anything for me. It was putting me to sleep. Secondly, increased mental distance from one's job or feelings of negativism or cynicism can be replaced with simply a longing to get away from the game that you are experiencing and previously otherwise were enjoying. So maybe you have a longing to get away with or to simply create some distance between you and POE. Maybe that's from you and the game in general. Maybe that's from you and the league in general. Maybe there's a particular league mechanic that you don't enjoy. Maybe it's a character or a particular build style that you just long to get away from, or it's starting to really bore you and mentally you're not enjoying it. You're not inside the headspace that would allow you to enjoy that particular build, that particular league, or that particular game. This also leads to you being critical of the things that you used to enjoy. Now, this one is kind of tough because there are going to be some of you out there who go, oh, Iron, I'm critical of things that I used to enjoy, and I'm just critical of them now because I've grown and changed as a person. This is going to be the first time that I'm actually going to give credit to the Kermits out there, because you're absolutely right. There are just times where the things that we enjoy change. And so it could be that you're critical of something that you used to enjoy, and maybe your tastes have shifted, your appreciations have shifted. That's true, and that can be a very present thing that happens in the life and the experience of human beings. So that's not something just to throw out and say, if you've got a change in taste, therefore you're experiencing burnout. But rather to say, if it is that, let's say, you enjoy a league mechanic or you enjoy playing a particular character style, and then over the course of a month, 3 months, 4 years, thousands of hours, the things that you used to enjoy, the same exact things that you used to enjoy, now you are becoming critical of. You're getting sick of them, and they are essentially burning you out. They're a drain to you. They've become boring for you. They become repetitive and they become a target for your critiques. Thirdly, rather than saying that you have reduced professional efficiency, we can simply say that you start making silly mistakes inside PoE. You forget basic goals that you had set. We can actually see this. There are some very, very famous clips of YouTubers and Twitch streamers who have been experiencing burnout of PoE, and they wouldn't necessarily admit that they're experiencing burnout because it's their job, it's their workplace, it's their environment, it's their livelihood where they derive purpose as well as provision for their daily living. However, you can sometimes see that people forget to read on maps, a silly basic mistake like, hey, you're playing a build that can't run reflect maps, and you go into a hardcore map that's reflect, or maybe you're playing a righteous fire build that requires a massive amount of regen, and you go into a map that says players cannot regen health or energy shield, right? Making silly mistakes that you otherwise wouldn't make. Maybe putting in the wrong amount of currency into a trade window, maybe accidentally trading something to a vendor that you meant to put into your stash. These are some of the things where you look at and you go, wait, what was it that I just clicked on? What did I just do? Why did I just delete that? Oh, that was a silly mistake, right? It's a sign that you are stretched too thin, that you are experiencing burnout in the game that you are presently playing. Okay, so burnout is pretty much at least one description. It can be a loss of one's groove inside a game, right? For those of you who are listening to this as a podcast or you're not watching it necessarily on YouTube at this point in time, I'm going to show you a picture of Kuzco from the Emperor's New Groove, right? So there's a picture, a great picture of Kuzco. You know, he's got the finger guns going. He's walking. He's feeling himself. He's feeling great. He loves life. He loves everything about being the Emperor. He feels great, right? He's in a groove, right? He feels great about who he is, what he's doing, and pretty much his place in the world. Burnout is almost the opposite of that. And now I'm showing a picture of Kuzco when he's been turned into a llama and tied up to a rock. He is not happy, he's got a frown, and he looks like, frankly, being a llama, that he's about to spit in your face. This is what burnout looks like, right? Now, granted, this is an animated cartoon. It was a great animated cartoon, by the way. But animated cartoon, silly movie, silly example, I get it. But this is what burnout can look like. We can be the same person and yet going through different experiences or going through the same experiences. When we begin to experience burnout, we perceive the things around us differently. The things that used to excite us, that used to be a part of our groove, that used to be a part of our daily enjoyment, have now become a source of tension, a source of cynicism, a source of boredom, a source of anger sometimes. So burnout often can be described as a loss of one's groove. Okay, so what causes burnout? Well, there's a lot of stuff that causes burnout. This isn't just from, gamer Iron Draconis dude here. This is, again, where there are several different resources that you can go out and look up causes of burnout. I'm sure that you probably have stories of burnout in your own life that you can identify that there have been throughout your lifetime, different causes of burnout as we've been discussing and defining here. So what causes it? Well, a couple of common factors, although there's lots of different reasons and almost everyone's got a different combination of factors for their particular experience of burnout. These are some common factors that occur in people who are experiencing burnout. First off is a feeling of being overworked. Okay, this doesn't always come up in an environmental professional sense or the environment of being paid or even an academic setting where you're trying to perform. It doesn't always come out there, right? It comes out sometimes while we're playing games. So it doesn't necessarily mean that you're being overworked in the sense that you've got a cruel taskmaster of a boss, but it's simply having a feeling of being overworked. Too much of X, right? Too much of X, whatever X is. Maybe it's you feel like there's too much for you to do in a particular league. Maybe you feel like there's too much currency that you need to farm to get to your next goal. So you feel like you're being overworked. Maybe you feel like you've put in too much time into a particular game or project or character. And so you feel as though you are being overworked. You feel like there's just too much on you. An intense sense of burden that you wish you could be rid of. A feeling of being overworked. That's one common cause or factor. The second common cause or factor is a feeling of being undervalued. So a sense of too little of Y. So you've got X, that's maybe a burden and you feel overworked. And then you've also got on top of that Y, which is a feeling of it's just not worth it. The stuff that's overworking you really isn't worth going through whatever hassle it is that you've got to go through in order to make X happen, because Y just isn't enough reward. It doesn't feel good enough for you to be taking on the responsibilities, the demands, the tasks that are required by X in order for you to reap the rewards of Y. So there is an imbalance between your feeling of work required from you or effort put in and the reward that's coming out, or rather the value that's coming back to you for the effort that you're putting in. Too much of X and too little of Y oftentimes cause burnout professionally as well as in gaming. So in POE, what could this mean? Well, if we apply these same principles, maybe you've got a feeling like you've got too much to do, right? Maybe you've got too many maps to run. Some players never progress on the Atlas because they open up their Atlas, they see 156 maps to do. Some players look at that and go, my goodness, how am I going to get through 156 of these? Some players don't know what efficient mapping looks like, and so they boot up one map, being the brave little engines that they are, and they hop into that map, and they soon experience a 15-minute map because they have no idea how to run that map quickly. They have no idea what the layout is. They have no idea maybe even if they're experiencing a boss inside that map. And so 15 minutes later, they get a notification, completion, map completed. And they go, wow, that was okay. That was a fun experience, sort of. And then they come out of it and they go, I got one of those done. There's 155 more of these to do. Oh my goodness, right? A feeling that there's too much to do. Some players experience this very early on throughout the story campaign. Some players feel overwhelmed, whether it's in Act 1, whether it's in Act 2, whether it's in Act 8, whether it's in Act 9. It doesn't matter where it is. Different players have got different thresholds for when they are feeling that sense of being overwhelmed, but oftentimes this can happen while you're progressing through a character. Sometimes it can be that there's simply a very, very real grind that takes place, and it is referred to as a grind. After all, Path of Exile is developed by a company called Grinding Gear Games. But the grind between level 95 to 100, or even for many, the grind between level 90 to 95. A feeling of too much work to do and not enough reward. The amount of time that you could put in order to simply be rewarded with a single passive point up at level 90, at level 92, at level 94, at level 96, the amount of hours and gameplay that you've got to experience versus just creating a new character and seeing all kinds of rewards and all kinds of new passive points popping up, there can be a very, very heavy sense that there is too much to do. I feel this way a lot of the times running Alva temples, to be honest. Incursion is one of my favorite leagues. I really love it as a mechanic. I love it all in theory. And then I find myself simply skipping the temple and resetting the temple if I didn't get exactly what I wanted or if I don't have a favorable setup for the temple. I don't feel like the reward for doing the temple is enough for the work that goes into building the temple and then actually running the temple. A feeling that there is too much to do inside the temple, a sense of being overwhelmed. That's just me personally. Okay, then there's the feeling that maybe PoE no longer provides a sense of fun or a sense of being underwhelmed, right? So those two principles being overworked, too much of X, undervalued, too little of Y. So if PoE is no longer providing you with a sense of fun, maybe the same amount of fun, maybe less fun, maybe it could be that you're simply experiencing more fun elsewhere and PoE isn't competing with that right now. A feeling that the game, the hobby, the thing that is that you are doing, it no longer provides a sense of fun and reward in proportion to what is being asked of you to do. It's that imbalance between what's being put in and what's coming back out. A feeling that maybe you've run thousands of monoliths and you just go, you know what? I really enjoyed Legion League and I really enjoy running monoliths, but I feel like this just isn't as fun as the first time. Some players are experiencing that with Breach. Some people, both inside our guild as well as throughout Reddit, throughout Discord, throughout the forums, said when Breach League came out, for example, Breach is the best league and we love Breach and there's nothing that's ever going to top Breach, and Breach is my favorite and will always be my favorite. And now we see many of those same people look back and go, yeah, Breach is kind of underwhelming. I don't really think that it's very fun. It's kind of underwhelming. Some of that right is because they've grown as a player and they've changed their tastes. But some of it is that those same things that they used to experience as fun no longer provide the same sense of reward and the same sense of fun. So it's that disproportionality between too much of X and too little Y. Those are oftentimes the causes of burnout. Now, are there remedies for burnout? Yes, there are. That's the good news. Hey, that's the good news that we've got right here on the G3 channel today, is that there are remedies for burnout. There are some solutions, and we've got a couple of them for you here today. So a 3-step plan for dealing with burnout is to run away. RUN. That's our little alliteration here for our remedies for burnout, is to RUN, to simply run away from burnout. So first off, the R, realize when you are first experiencing symptoms of burnout. Seriously, this is like a big deal. Then secondly, uncover what it is that is making you feel the burnout. In other words, asking yourself questions like, am I burning out on POE in general? Right? One way to test that is to simply say, okay, if I play different characters, do I still feel burnt out? If I try out different maps, am I still burnt out? Is it the league mechanic that I'm interacting with? Do I still feel burnt out? If I log on to standard, I know for some of you that's like anathema. For some of you, you would never log on to standard. For others of you, you would never log on to the league. So that's fine. Take the general principle and apply it to your own gameplay styles. If it is that you are burning out, maybe in a softcore experience, but you still want to play POE, go try a hardcore experience. See if that gets your blood pumping and your adrenaline going. I can vouch that yes, it probably will. Maybe it'll get your adrenaline and your blood running in a bad way. Maybe you'll just be upset when you die, but it's something different. You can test yourself to see what exactly it is that is making you feel that burnout in particular. You've got to be able to identify what it is that's triggering that burnout. Then lastly, navigate to something else. This is our N in our run steps for remedying burnout. Navigate to something else that you find enjoyment in. Okay, find enjoyment. You've got to find it somewhere. If you're not finding it inside of POE or inside of your character, figure out what it is, right? You've uncovered what it is that you're no longer enjoying, and now navigate yourself to something that you do find enjoyment in. When you uncover what it is that you don't enjoy, you're going to navigate to something that you do enjoy, right? So whether that's a new character, a new challenge, setting yourself up for a new game, maybe revisiting an old book, an old hobby, an old project that you haven't gotten around to for a while. Maybe it's starting something new. I will give you an example for me. The stats visualization project is something that I've been working on now for a couple months off and on. It's not something that I sit down, at my desk and work at 8 hours a day. It's something when I feel like I'm getting burnt out from doing other kinds of spreadsheets or other kinds of work for my jobs, or I simply don't have time to dump time into playing a game. I jump on over to that spreadsheet and have fun working on that particular project. It's still related to POE. I think it's something fun to do. It's a break. It still uses some of my same talents and abilities in terms of analyzing stats and looking at spreadsheets. I enjoy that sort of thing just in general, but it's different enough that it doesn't feel like work when I'm staring at other spreadsheets for work. But it's similar enough to POE that I'm at least still getting to think about POE, even if I'm not necessarily playing POE, whether that's because I'm experiencing burnout from work or burnout from POE. It's something that's different enough that I can enjoy it, but it's also similar enough to the things that I do enjoy that it actually gives me cause to be motivated to go in, to dive in, to spend time doing it, and to enjoy it. So first off, realize when you're experiencing symptoms of burnout. Secondly, uncover what it is that those feelings are coming from, and then navigate away from them to find a new sense of enjoyment. So tips as you run from burnout. So here's some expanded tips, all right? So as you are running from burnout, here are some extra things to look out for. First off, is there a trigger for your burnout? For some people, there might not be. Okay, I'm just saying that right up front. Those of you that are saying, yeah, but Iron, I don't feel like I'm really being triggered into my burnout. Maybe I'm just really tired or something, right? That's fine. You can say that. You can say there's nothing that's triggering you and then give an example of something that's triggering you. That's fine. That's fine. But maybe you can't identify it, right? Maybe it's tough to identify those triggers. So some questions that might be able to help you identify those triggers are, maybe you're reading too much about other people complaining about X, Y, or Z going on inside POE. Maybe you're spending too much time on the forums, on maybe a Discord server, on guild chat. Maybe you're spending too much time on Reddit. Reddit, pretty much just in particular, just speaking really quickly about Reddit as one particular source. The forums are similar to this. Reddit pretty much has a life cycle of a league that it goes through, right? You can go to pre-league, where it's building up hype and excitement. You can go to league launch, where everybody's just excited. That can last anywhere between 8 hours to 72 hours to all the way through the league. So there's this sense of excitement for a league. Then generally, once you get through the first few weeks of a league, people start to really pick apart the league and identify holes in the league, also identify exploits in the league. And then you get into the solid mid-league phase of a league on Reddit, where people start to complain about things that might not have anything to do with the present league, but there's something from, ages ago, or maybe leagues ago, or maybe years ago, or maybe it's a complaint from another game that they're then coming and applying it to POE. That's really a life cycle, just in a picture, in a moment. So it could be that you notice that other people are actually triggering your burnout. This is something that I really hit heavy on in a lot of different videos and in a lot of different discussions. Don't let anyone else tell you what to enjoy or how to enjoy it. Don't. Your gameplay time is your gameplay time. If you enjoy playing POE, when you sit down and you boot up POE and you enjoy it, don't let some other discussion that other people are having, including this channel, including us right here in G3, don't let us ruin something that you are enjoying, right? This is your hobby. Enjoy it. This is your time to take a break from whatever other responsibilities that you've got in life and in the world and at work. So enjoy it. Don't let other people complaining about X, Y, or Z rob you or send you down a path of burnout. Identify that. If you notice that in yourself, or if you notice these patterns in the communities and the other people that you play with, maybe take a break from chatting, maybe take a break from reading, maybe take a break from engaging in those discussions that, as you notice, are triggering you into burnout. Secondly, maybe it's environmental factors. I mentioned earlier that you're falling asleep. I mentioned earlier that I used to fall asleep with my little one while playing Diablo 3 in her rocking chair at the end of a long workday. Maybe there are environmental factors. Maybe it's the time of day when you play a game, or maybe it's your physical energy levels are low while you're playing. I know several out there of you are going to have similar stories. I've got a couple of different friends that when they play MMORPGs, sometimes they just don't eat breakfast. Sometimes they skip a lunch. Sometimes they don't eat dinner. Sometimes they'll just survive on power snacks and they won't actually have like a full meal. I got to say, there are environmental factors that can absolutely contribute to your burnout of something. Maybe it's the opposite, right? Maybe it's not having enough energy. Maybe it's having too much energy, right? Maybe you just like are zoped up on, I don't even know, Monster and Red Bull. Nobody's sponsoring this video, so I don't want to just like drop out a bunch of different names. But maybe you're hopped up on caffeine and sugar, right? If that's what it is that you do to get hyped up. If that's the case, maybe there's an environmental factor that's going on. Maybe when you're actually getting bored, you're not actually getting bored. You're just coming down off of a caffeine high. Maybe you're getting a headache from playing the game. Maybe, but maybe you're not getting a headache from playing the game. Maybe it's because your blood sugar levels are low. Maybe it's because they're too high, etc. There's a whole bunch of biological factors that can go into. Again, I'm not a personal trainer. I'm not going to come in here and do a biology lesson. I'm simply going to say there are environmental factors that can happen that are taking place all around you that can impact your enjoyment and your hobby time. I know, for instance, for me, when I would often play League of Legends ranked and really, really climb well, it wasn't at nighttime. It was not at nighttime. Oftentimes when I was playing League of Legends ranked and I would perform to my best, not necessarily enjoy the game the most. I would enjoy the game the most at night when all of my friends were on. But I would perform to my best when I was playing alone and in the morning when I was most focused. Just an observation of some of those environmental factors about what is it that could cause you to burn out. Okay, secondly, tips as you are running from burnout. Think back. What gets you really excited for the game that you're playing, or what used to get you really excited? What was a motivation for you that got you excited, that got you started into a game? So think about that. Think about the factors that used to really excite you about the game. Don't just think about them mentally and be like, oh, I really hope that I become more motivated to play. No. Think back and identify. Was it new content that got you excited for the game? Path of Exile is a content-driven game. Maybe players don't necessarily think of it as such, but every single year there are 4 new leagues that come out. Not everybody plays new leagues. A lot of players out there play standard. Nonetheless, that new league content that comes through, if it goes core, it comes to standard. So those of you who are standard players, you can also appreciate this, right? There's new stuff that gets integrated into standard every couple of months. So maybe it's new content that got you really excited for the game. If you've experienced a bunch of that new content and you're waiting for a while, it's totally a natural thing to say, hey, I just enjoyed the new content. Now I'm waiting for a while. I'm not going to play this game for a while because it's going to burn me out. Maybe it's a new character or a new style. This is oftentimes deemed the Mathel effect, right? Mathel will go out, play a new character, and then all of a sudden a bunch of uniques that used to be one alchemy yesterday are now, 10 exalts today, right? Playing a new character motivates people. And regardless of if it's at the start of the league, if it's at the middle of the league, or if it's at the end of a league, you can count on different YouTube and content creators playing new characters, and that's what excites them when they're playing the game. You won't necessarily see some of these people pushing for level 100. Others you will see as pushing for level 100. Some you'll see playing with dedicated groups of friends and seeing how far they can push as a group. Others you'll see will never ever play with another person and they just want to experience solo self-found hardcore. That's it. So think back to what really got you excited for the game and then try to jump into that. If it's a new character or if it's a new motivation, right, for a new challenge, a new character in the form of a new challenge, then jump into that. Try it. Give it a shot. See if that new thing that used to get you motivated and used to get you really excited really still does get you excited. If it's new content, try some content that maybe you haven't tried out before. Maybe you've never really tried to delve. Maybe you've never really tried to take advantage of the bestiary and all of the different combinations that can come up there. Maybe you hate trading and you've never wanted to experience what trading is like. Give it a shot for a day and see what that's like. Maybe all you do is trade all day and you've never really progressed your Atlas. Give it a shot for a day. See what it's like. Give it an attempt and see if that new content or new character is what's actually driving you and motivating you. Thirdly, is it revisions, remakes, updates, or changes that gets you excited? There's a lot of players each and every league, and GGG has identified this, and they've started building this into their content development cycle. There's a lot of players every league who are excited for new mechanics that are coming, but there's a lot of players out there who are excited for revisits and refinements of present and old mechanics inside Path of Exile. So you can see this in the 3.6 league, where we had the self-casting league that everybody was all hyped and excited for. You can see this in 3.7, where everybody is hyped and excited for all of the melee reworks. You can see this prior in 3.5, when it was the reworks of the old Masters and the Forsaken Masters and the reworking of that. You can see it prior to that in different ascendancies that get changed every single new patch and new major patch and every single new change that comes into the passive tree. Maybe those are the things that excite you. If those are the things that excite you, then I would challenge you to revisit things that have been revisited or revised and see what you like about it. Maybe play a build that you haven't played in 3 or 4 years. See what's changed about it. Maybe go back and revisit an ascendancy that you used to play one way and now can be played another way. See what revisions, what remakes, what updates, and what changes that used to motivate you. See if those things still do motivate you today. Next, maybe it's playing with friends. This is a really, really tough one. Let's say you play with 1 to 6 other players, right, throughout the life cycle of your time playing a league or playing for a couple of months in Path of Exile. If you really enjoy playing with friends, then honestly, there's not much you can do when your friends group stops playing a game. There isn't, in terms of convincing those players to come back. Sure, you can try to tell them and encourage them and welcome them back and say you miss them and hope that they come back. But there's nothing you can go do to say, you know what, I'm going to make these people come back and play with me again. So an option, and I know this is going to be challenging, I know this is going to be awkward for some of you, and it's weird to say, but maybe branch out and find some new friends. Maybe find a new guild, maybe find a new community to play with. Maybe that's us right here in G3. Maybe you're sick of the people in G3, and so you need to go find other friends, right? Identify if it is playing with friends that motivates you to get into a game, then maybe you need to find some other friends that enjoy the game alongside with you. This is actually something that has kept me inside Path of Exile for a long, long time. Is a couple of my friends and I play Path of Exile, but I've actually now become the one who plays Path of Exile way, way more in terms of time of spent in game. In terms of gameplay ability and theory crafting, those guys are all still miles ahead of me, right? In terms of their actual mechanical skill and theory crafting, they're all wonderful, wonderful players. But I dump a bunch of time into the game simply playing Path of Exile. And so I've used that to go out and make new friends who are also going to be available and want to spend the same amount of time in Path of Exile as I have. Have I cut off those relationships and stopped playing with those friends? No, those are wonderful friends that I enjoy playing with. However, what I've done is I've tried to expand the amount of people that I can chat with, that I can enjoy playing games with, rather than try to narrow it down or simply say, oh, well, I guess my friends aren't playing anymore. I guess I'll just play this alone, or I won't play it at all. Next up, try something in a completely different direction. So, as you are running from burnout, try something in a completely different direction. And I mean completely different direction. So, if an action RPG is burning you out, like Path of Exile, try something different. Try an MMORPG, try a MOBA, try a single player adventure game, try a sports game. Try something different. Try a racing game. Go play Grand Theft Auto. Go play Skyrim. Go play a 2D, what do they call it? Oh goodness, not a Thief's Quest. What do they call it? Roguelike. Go play a roguelike, right? Go play something that's maybe somebody you know has kickstarted, or go play something that you saw that just came out on a new sale, right? Or something that one of your friends is playing because you're motivated to play with your friends. Go try something different if whatever it is that you're enjoying, you're no longer enjoying, is burning you out. Go try, something on the far reaches of another genre entirely. Okay, try that thing that's different. One of the things that this will do is this will make you miss or appreciate the thing that you were burning out on, and it will either give you a greater desire for that game, or it will give you a fun experience while you recover from your burnout. So if you try something different and you don't like it, and you say, you know what, I'm going to take a break from POE, and I'm going to go play this new game, this totally new, different genre-based game. And you go and you play it. Let's say option one is you hate it. Right? Let's say option one is that you hate it. The whole time you're playing it, you're just going, man, this isn't like POE. And I really think this game could be much better if it was just POE. Well, that tells you it's time for you to go back to POE. It tells you that you're no longer suffering from burnout. You can jump back into POE without having to worry that you're going to burn out on it anytime soon. Conversely, let's say you try something different, and instead of hating it, you go, wow, I really like this. This is kind of different. This has got a different experience. It hits on different gamer motivations for me. It's a completely different motivational factor for me. That's great. That means that you're actually enjoying the time rather than wasting the time just being bored and burnt out, which is a great thing. So try something in a completely different direction as you are running from burnout. Okay, so what are your thoughts on burnout and POE? Those were my thoughts. So thanks so much for engaging and for watching and for sticking around for our discussion topics and discussion questions. I've got 4 of them listed here for you, and I would love to read all of your comments down below in the comments underneath our video right here for our discussion platform. And I'd love to hear your thoughts, your ideas on these 4 questions. First off, what are your symptoms of burnout? We talked about identifying the symptoms of your burnout. What does it look like when you begin to experience burnout? For me, I knew I was burning out on D3 because I kept falling asleep in my chair whenever I went to go and play it. That was a symptom of burnout. Second, how have you previously dealt with burnout? One thing that I did when I was experiencing burnout in Diablo 3 was I had a bunch of friends that were playing League of Legends, and they said, come play League of Legends with us. And I went and played League of Legends, and then I never went back to D3. So I went and tried something different. I loved it so much that I spent years, and I built a business around it, enjoying and playing and consulting in League of Legends. It was wonderful, right? So how have you previously dealt with burnout? Answer that question. And then thirdly, what triggers burnout for you, right? What are the triggers of it? Not just what are the symptoms of it, but what triggers it? For me, when I was falling asleep playing Diablo 3, it wasn't just all on Diablo 3. It was that I was going to grad school. It was that my wife and I were barely getting any sleep with a new baby. It was that I was working full time as well. And then on top of that, I was trying to come home and spend time both with my baby who was asleep, as well as with Diablo 3, which was putting me to sleep. So what triggers burnout for you? For me, it can be physically exhausting to be around a bunch of other people. It just can be. I'm a pretty heavily introverted person. And so if I'm around a whole bunch of other people, that burns me out on people. And then I want to go spend a bunch of time alone playing Path of Exile. Conversely, if I've been playing Path of Exile with a bunch of people, that can kind of burn me out on being with people, which means when I pull out of Path of Exile, I don't want to go and do something social with a whole bunch of other people, right? That can trigger burnout for me. So what triggers burnout for you? Fourthly, what tips would you add or share with other players who may be experiencing burnout right now or may at some point in the future experience burnout? What sort of tips would you like to add to this discussion for their benefit for other players who are also maybe experiencing or may potentially be experiencing burnout. Love to see your answers to those questions down below. And as always, I hope that today is the day a Mirror of Calandra drops for you. And you know what? If you're not playing POE, then I hope whatever it is that is the equivalent of a Mirror of Calandra drops for you in whatever game it is that you are playing to recover from your burnout. Thanks for watching that video. If you'd like more information on any of our discussion points today, you can see them down below in the video description. If you'd also like to join our Discord or support our Patreon, you can do so with the links down below. Thanks again, and big shout out to all of our Patreon supporters.